For many mothers, seeing this is one of the happiest moments of their lives. But for Bojana, the news wasn't good from the early days of her second pregnancy.
In week 20 of the pregnancy, during a routine test, we saw that her heart was too large. We still don't know what the reason was for her illness, and in the 24th gestational week, she passed away. The next day, I had a stillbirth.
The obstetricians let Bojana see her baby for 10 minutes. Then she didn't see it again. This is the room where all dead bodies from this hospital get taken into, including the bodies of stillborn children. On this table, autopsy gets performed on the bodies of stillborn children to establish the reason for stillbirth. But after the autopsy, the bodies of stillborn children don't get buried in a graveyard. Instead, they get taken here, where they get burned alongside biological waste, like amputated hands, arms and legs. This process of waste treatment is called incineration. Professor Kamenova is the head of the pathoanatomy department here. She explains what the procedure is after stillbirth.
The stillborn child does not get registered as a citizen of Bulgaria and is subject to incineration, same as other parts that have been cut off from living humans. We usually send a few limbs and bodies of stillborns, if we have any, for incineration together.
Incineration is the closest to a funeral Bulgarian hospitals can provide for stillborn children. But how do obstetricians approach the parents in these situations? Dr. Zhekova has been assisting mothers in giving birth for over 20 years.
In all cases, it's the mother's right to choose whether she wants the newborn. This is the law here. We doctors in Bulgaria focus more on finding out the reasons for stillbirth and try to make another pregnancy possible and successful.
But Bojana couldn't move on so easily. She needed to say goodbye to her child.
For the parents, it is very important to have something material that proves this child has existed. It could be an urn, a picture, fingerprints, something that is visible, because otherwise this child has only existed for you. No one else has seen it, no one else knows it. And the whole of society tells you to look into the future and that you will have another one. But it denies you the chance to grieve for it.
2 months after the stillbirth, Bojana created a foundation called Poppies for Mary, named after her dead daughter. Its purpose is to oblige the state to bury or cremate all stillborn children. The foundation prepared an official proposal for law changes. On the 13th of June, they handed it in and protested silently in front of the Ministry of Health. They let balloons up in the sky in memory of the invisible children. The lawyer who worked on the official proposal says the main problem comes from the law for citizens' registration, but it's under the ruling of the Ministry of Justice.
Firstly, it has to be added to the legal administration of funerals that a certificate of stillborn child is still a sufficient legal requirement for someone to have a funeral. This is a very minor amendment, but it does have to go through Parliament.
The second legal obstacle is that the bodies of stillborns are classified as biological waste in the Health Ministry. But Mr. Stavros says this is also easy to change.
An important part of the recommendations we're currently working on is that the law obliges the state to at least treat those babies humanely, if not provide them with a funeral, including cases when parents don't want to organize a funeral themselves.
One challenge that the campaigners face is to push for the amendments in the law to be implemented quickly. The Ministry of Justice wasn't available for comment, but Dr. Tateva from the Health Ministry says these changes usually take a while.
There's no problem for the Ministry of Health to arrange this. The changes we need to make are minor, and we can easily do this. The real difficulty would be to amend the law for citizens' registration in Parliament, which is under the Ministry of Justice.
Dr. Krasteva also helped with the campaign. She researched how other countries deal with the burial of stillborns. She learned that all EU states are obliged to bury the babies.
There is a lot of research done that shows the long-term positive effect that being able to see, hold and say goodbye to the baby has on the psychology of the parents. The sample is around 3,000 mothers who had the opportunity to say goodbye to their children, and they are less inclined to trauma, depression and physical symptoms like headaches or insomnia.
For example, in Britain, the hospital makes the funeral arrangements unless the parents prefer to do it. SANS is a charity that supports anyone affected by stillbirth or neonatal death. Erica Stewart explains that in the UK, parents can choose to see and hold their stillborn baby.
They're also offered photographs, hand and footprints, which can go in a memory card, a lock of hair, and a lot of hospitals in England now have a specific room for parents where they can spend time with their baby.
According to Mrs. Stewart, parents of stillborns need an acknowledgement that their baby has existed, something physical, like this memory box.
So if parents don't have that, I think that they will carry this pain around for them for the rest of their life, and they will, and they can definitely have mental health problems later.
But back in Bulgaria, some doctors would disagree with Ms. Stewart. Professor Milanov thinks that it's risky for parents to see their stillborns.
It would have a negative effect on many of the mothers and fathers. They imagine the body to be a formed human baby, but it isn't. For some of the women, it would have a very negative effect. They actually might have extreme reactions, like not wanting to have any more children.
Changing such perceptions is another challenge that the Foundation Poppies for Mary faces. They say that Bulgarian society needs to learn to treat everyone with dignity.
So we don't have the right to determine when the humanness in the human begins, and the presumption is that all babies deserve a dignified farewell, not only because it is important for the parents, but it is also important for society.
Poppies for Mary now provides psychological support for parents of stillborn children. They're also working towards raising awareness and educating medical staff, so they can give closure to those in need.